Well, it's that time again, folks. Billy frickin' Carson is back. And this time he has gotten super popular. He did like all the big rounds, all the podcasts. He was on Joe Rogan, PPD. I think last year he was on Danny Jones. I mean, like, he was just everywhere. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this guy's a charlatan. Like, he's a con artist. Dude. All right. Well, we're going to go through some stuff today. I'm here with Jon Clash. How you doing, John?
What up, what up, what up? Thanks for having me.
For those who don't know, this is John. That's all you need to know, but it's just John.
What's up, guys?
Yeah. John, you got a smaller channel, but really useful, I've found, especially for dealing with like some other topics, especially stuff that I cover. Let me get you up here. Where is your channel? I had it here a second ago, and then I lost it. Here you are. It's right in my face.
Shout out to Arthur in the chat. He ended his stream and told everybody to come here.
Who is Arthur?
Arthur from Apologia Center.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure you guys met when he was at some conference.
Yeah. You just can't say names. I'm horrible with names, Steve. You know that, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I'm bad with names. But yeah, so this is John's channel, if you don't know. John, you actually grown a lot. You're up to 33,000 now. Last I checked, you were like 8,000.
Bro, but it was from this one stupid short that I did. And it just like exploded the channel. Got like 7 million views. And then none of them watch any of my other stuff. So
isn't that the worst? Like, that happens. Like, you'll get like big shorts, and then it's like, hey, I got other stuff. And I'm like,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Story of social media. You got some good stuff over here. You've done some stuff with New Age, Christian heretical stuff. So, and you've dealt with Billy frickin' Carson, just like I have.
It's a fun life with Billy in it.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about Billy Carson and how he deceives people, how he lies to people, and how he gets away with it. And we're going to talk about that. So we're going to go through his Joe Rogan interview. Basically, just like, I don't know if he went a minute without lying in this.
Yeah, it was when I was going through the clips for like, all right, you know, this is something we could possibly talk about. This is something we could have done the whole entire thing just off of BS. You know, everything that was nonsense that came out of his mouth, we could have made a clip on it. I think a lot of people have been doing a good job though. Like Wesley Huff got a bunch of stuff that he was doing. Like there's a lot of people out there refuting this. I'm actually glad that Billy is going on these popular podcasts because it's bringing his stupid ideas to light.
Yeah, and it's not like it was in the 90s when you had you know, what's that guy, Jordan Maxwell, running around with his nonsense. It was harder to debunk because you just see him on like the History Channel at 3 a.m. and there would be no way to like post a response because, you know, social media didn't exist. Billy unfortunately lives in the age of social media where people with larger audiences like, you know, myself, to yourself, to a lesser extent, can easily debunk this just by putting something out that's going to get thousands of views. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. He's lying and deceiving a lot of people, but his ideas are easier to be seen now, and we can all be like, hey, this is nonsense, everyone. So he's gonna have a much harder time deceiving people than someone like Jordan Maxwell did like 20 years ago with his utter nonsense. But
he might have hit his peak.
Kitchen.
Billy he might have just hit his peak doing the Patrick Bet-David, the Joe Rogan, and the what was the other one he did?
I forget, but yeah, I've been trying to get on those podcasts for a while. No luck, unfortunately.
The one with Andrew Schultz, he did.
Yeah, I'd like to go on some of those and correct some of the misinformation that the previous guests have brought on, like Carson, but you know, can't. So right on my channel, we're going to start going through his nonsense and expose it all. Give you guys kind of an idea. Real quick, though, I want to play this video you just put out, just the opening of it, because, man, this really just sort of like epitomizes who Billy Carson is. So this is the kind of stuff he says, ladies and gentlemen, and it makes me want to like rip my eyes out.
I can keep going. Guess what, guys? I'm one of the foremost world leader in the knowledge on ancient texts and tablets, scriptures, papyruses, and cylinder scrolls. And guess what?
No, you're not.
I actually stole this from What Do You Meme? He had this little clip in his video. I was like, yo, I need that video.
What is he talking about? He has no degrees in Assyriology, Egyptology, biblical studies. He's not a leading expert in anything other than just being a grifter. Like, how dare you, quite honestly? Like, there are men and women that have worked hard getting a bachelor's, then a master's, then a PhD. And this guy has the audacity to say, I'm one of the leading experts, not the PhD experts that would contradict me on everything and expose how much of a liar I am. No. I like, how do you even
it's
say
tough.
that with a straight face when there are legitimate scholars out there with PhDs next to their names? Like, oh my goodness. But yeah, this is who we're dealing with. Now, the title of this stream is How Billy Carson Lies to You. But now, when a lay person hears that, you're going to be like someone in the 90s who sees a well-dressed Jordan Maxwell sitting on the History Channel, or Zachariah Sitchin sitting on there, and it says like expert below their name. You're just gonna be like, well, how am I supposed to know these guys are wrong? The History Channel is always going to get us experts, right? They're going to get us the good guys that know what they're talking about. So a lay person will hear this and go, oh, he's a leading expert. Like, he must be giving lectures at colleges and writing papers. How many papers do you think Billy Carson has published in reputable journals?
Does this count?
Zero.
Does that one count?
Oh, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the things that Maurice Doreal made up and don't exist, yet Carson pretends they're real. Like, yeah, sure, we'll include that. Yeah.
Very Joseph Smith.
It's very, For those who don't know, okay, so the Emerald Tablets, Billy Carson says are real. They're not. This guy in like less than like 100 years ago named Maurice Doreal claims he went to Egypt, claims he went into the Great Pyramid, because, they just let anyone in. Claims the god Thoth, the Egyptian god Thoth, appeared to him, showed him where the Emerald Tablets were. He translated them, and then just the Emerald Tablets magically disappeared, and we don't have them to verify if Maurice Doreal translated them right or not. But Billy Carson says they are.
The Vatican has them. Okay, for 100% fact, the Vatican definitely has them.
That's right. When the conspiracy theory is like trump card for everything. When you ask him for a text, well, it's in the Vatican library.
Yeah, it's
obviously.
like the meme where SpongeBob is opening the case, right? It's like, the Vatican.
Apologia Center said, inspiring philosophy, ETS, bro. We hung out and had lunch. Listen, Arthur, you're forgetting something. I have slept since then. Okay. I remember, it's just like, you just say the name Arthur, and the first image that pops in my head is an anteater. Okay. Right. It's not like someone I met like a year ago. Like, you gotta give me like more hints. So
yeah, Arthur's got a fire channel. He does really good stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Two of my men in the same video. Awesome. Listen, I am not your buddy, guy. I'm not your man, buddy. Two of my men. What do we work for you or something? Appreciate the super chat, Shem. Appreciate it. Hi, IP and John. How can we reconcile the requirements of the prophet in Deuteronomy 18 with deterministic prophecy like Jonah's prophecy of Nineveh? I think you meant to say conditional, because Jonah's prophecy is conditional. It's not deterministic. And the way we reconcile this is that you just understand Deuteronomy 18 in the conditional prophecy. So if a prophet comes in, like let's say Jonah went into Nineveh and he called the people to repent and disaster still came. Okay, then he's a false prophet. If he came in and he preached blessings, if the people repented and, disaster came, problem. And the same thing in reverse. So you get that kind of idea. It's Deuteronomy 18 has to be understood in that framework. And I talk about this in my video, was Jesus a failed apocalyptic prophet? I actually went over Deuteronomy 18 in more detail. So you can check that out, for example. I've been waiting months for this stream. What do you mean you're waiting months? We just announced it like 2 days ago. What are you, psychic or something? This guy's a prophet. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
This is a prophet. This is how you know, based on the previous super chat. He obviously made a accurate prediction months ago that we were going to do this stream. All right. So as I said, anything you want to say before we get into Billy Carson's utter nonsense and lies and all of it?
I don't think so. After all of the hours of Billy I've watched, I'm surprised I'm probably gonna mess up this whole entire video because my brain is fried from listening to him.
Wait, we have breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. We have found the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. There they are, ladies and gentlemen. They were found.
Fire. That is so awesome.
I can't believe it. They were right. They were on YouTube this whole time, guys.
This whole time. The algorithm was hiding them in the Vatican.
All right. So Billy Carson has been vindicated. We have found the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Here they are. Everyone celebrate. Now, will you please publish your results so we can all read it and verify if it's what Billy Carson actually said or what Maurice Doriel translated?
Yeah, we definitely need that yesterday.
For sure. So Billy Carson went on Joe Rogan's podcast. This got 4.4 million views. And he just lied through his teeth all the time. Here we go.
UCLA CDLI online cuneiform digital library, say that fast 10 times, I was able to take stone tablets and decipher them myself. So anyone can go online to the UCLA CDLI online cuneiform digital library and read these stone tablets for themselves. You don't need Zacharias Hitchen. You don't need anyone else. And as I begin...
Okay, I'm going to stop him right because I just immediately got annoyed. Okay, first of all, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
He does not know how to read ancient Sumerian or Akkadian. He did not go on there and translate tablets.
And
that's
the
utter
fact
nonsense.
that he says that he deciphered them, you know, I don't even think he understands what that word means in the context in which he's speaking. When he said, I went on there and deciphered the text. No, other people deciphered the text and put the translations and transliterations up there for you to be able to read them.
And I like how his go-to expert is Zacharias Sitchin. Like that, you don't need this other like that's where he's just getting all his information from. But this is how he lies to people. He claims that he's a leading expert. He claims he's translating tablets. So the layperson is going to think, oh, this guy is actually giving me the original sources. You know, I'm going to what they actually say. And then he'll, he'll people just be like, oh, okay, I guess he must be an expert. But that's how he gets away with this nonsense. And no one is well informed enough to really call him out in his audience because they've not translated tablets. Most people haven't.
Well, there's actually on that site, I think there's like 360,000 different tablets, and only something like, this percentage might be off a little, but it's about 4% have been translated. And it's just because they don't have enough people to translate them all. Like, this isn't a field that people go into, like, you're 6 years old and you're like, yeah, I want to translate cuneiform. Like, they just don't do that. So what we have is on there, when I searched what Billy would be looking for, keywords like Anunnaki, English, there's only 3 tablets on that whole site that are talking about Anunnaki at all. So
let's play a little bit more and let's see what he says about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I began to break these tablets down.
Do they have them transcribed, or are you reading the actual tablet?
They transcribe them. They actually transcribe them into English for you.
Is there controversy as far as, like, are there different versions of the transcription? Like, do some people think it's interpreted differently?
All right, so there he lied. John, did he lie there? He said they're all translated in English for you there?
Yeah, all of them. All 360,000 of them translated into English for you right there, buddy. And you can decipher them for yourself.
Well,
and
we can, like, this is the website he mentions right here, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So let's type in
click the search button, because that one it comes up with like 0. I'm over here pointing to the freaking thing. Like,
the search thing here.
Yeah. It'll bring you to a different page, and then search there.
I hit a typo there. Let's see what we got. I probably didn't spell that right. What did I do wrong? I always forget how to spell Anunnaki.
It's 1 N. I always mess it up.
Yeah. I think because I've seen it, but yeah, I'm getting 0 results for that at all. Let's type in Enki, because Enki's in there. Enki's a god of the Sumerian. Okay, we got Enki. Okay. But does this look like a translation to you right here?
Yeah. So when you read it, right? Like, I spent a good amount of time on the site because I've wanted to just be sure you can go on there and read some of it. It's very difficult to read in the way that it's translated, because they'll have the translation that only translators understand, and then they'll have something else, and then they'll have English right under it, and it's like backwards, and you got to read it this way. It's bananas. I was thinking about it, right? If there's 360,000 of them on there, and you took an hour on each of them, that's like 40 years that you would have to study these tablets with no breaks. And I'm pretty sure Billy, is older than 40, but I don't think he spent all that time studying the tablets.
Yeah, most of these aren't translated. When I was looking at this, he's just wrong. He first of all, he claims he translated them, so why would he care if there's English? Okay, he says he can read this and decipher it for us. Okay, and when you go through, they're not translated. You need experts for this kind of stuff.
Right.
Billy Carson isn't an expert. There's very few, as you mentioned, that are actually translated.
Right.
Most of this is just a catalog for experts to be able to use and go through. And you can see, like, you just look at the text on the screen. None of this is translated. You can see a couple here. Like, we found like a couple off the top of my head, but of the thousands, there's only a few there. Yep. And of course, none of this is mentioning the same nonsense that Zachariah Sitchin spews, that Billy Carson spews. It's just nonsense.
I think the Descent of Ishtar, the Enuma Elish, and one other are the ones that I found on there that Billy might possibly be talking about, just to give him the benefit of the doubt. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could find some on here, but I mean, the majority, like this one isn't. This is
Right.
just telling you that what the text is. This one is, though. So as we can see there, yeah, we can see some translations here. But I mean, no, they're not all. And I highly doubt he went through this like he claims he did, because he would not be arriving at the conclusions he has, because anyone can read translations of a lot of these works. Like, you know, I've read the Descent of Ishtar or Inanna's Descent multiple times because we deal with Jesus mythicists.
Right.
That kind of stuff. So, by the way, did you punch the wall behind you?
No, that is
Other side.
So if you go this way, it's like branches and stuff. It's like a wall sticky thing.
Is that your excuse? Okay.
That's my excuse.
I see a bird now. I realize that there's a bird there.
That's a
Okay.
bird. You're not translating what's on this wall correctly. Okay.
I'm pulling a Billy Carson on you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna move ahead a little bit here because Joe just sort of goes on about how amazing the tablets are, which, you know, agreed, but I mean,
Something Joe says, I don't know if we heard it yet, but I remember he says, you know, is there any discrepancy about the translation? And Billy says, no, there's not, except, you know, where pieces are chipped off. But that kind of like double shoots him in the foot. He shoots himself in the foot. One is because if there is discrepancy, right? Because if you check the website, you can look to see revisions. So they're constantly being revised and better translated. But then he also shoots himself in the foot by saying that no, there's no discrepancy among scholars about this, because well then your whole entire movement is based on something that disagrees with everybody else. So if there's no discrepancies, but everybody else who are experts at this disagrees with your interpretations of them, then
everyone.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that. I'm gonna pull up the Atrahasis a little later here, and we'll go into
Nice.
show you how Billy lies about what's in there, you know. But yeah, let's play a little bit more here.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
It is. And what's incredible is this text was translated in the 1800s, long before Zachariah Sitchin was born. So there are some, you know, some rumors that, oh, he was the only one that could decipher these tablets. Well, no.
Who says that?
No. And ever Zachariah Sitchin is the only one who could translate. In fact, guess what, Billy? No one has said that but you. Like, no, like there's not in the Syriologist alive who was like, oh, we need to get Zachariah back in here because none of us can translate. Like, that never happened. He couldn't even read them. Like, this is the level of intelligence Billy has. He just thinks people in the 1800s translated it. Then Zachariah Sitchin, him. Like, there's no one else, guys, apparently, according to wow.
George Smith, who worked as an Assyriologist and wrote many books and deciphered these Sumerian tablets in the 1800s. So we're talking about texts that have been deciphered for a few hundred years, nothing that was just deciphered recently.
So what are the first decipherings? Like, what year was the?
So real quick, he's ignoring the fact that a lot of times these translations are debated and changed.
Right.
So there's a text called Enemerkar and the Lord of Aratu. And that text was translated in the 1960s, and it's been updated since then. Like, new Assyriologists came out and they said, no, I think it needs to be translated this way. So there's a lot of debate around a lot of these texts, how to translate certain things. It's not like they figured it all out in the 1800s. End of story. Let's move on. That's not accurate at all. There still is debate among actual experts, not among people like Billy Carson.
Right.
The first deciphering?
It was in 1800. I think around 1850. George Smith. He actually worked at the I believe it was Cambridge.
And what was his take? Like, what did when
So real quick, is that accurate, John?
Nah, George
No.
Smith wasn't the first one to translate cuneiform. It was somebody named Henry Rollins, and
Yep.
there was a whole bunch of other people as well around that
Yeah.
time. Julius Oppert, Edward Hicks. So George Smith, he was a little bit late to the game, not like fully late, because he did help translate the Epic of Gilgamesh, but he was not first. So to make the claim that he was first, I don't know. It could just be a slip of the tongue. Like, Billy got so much nonsense up there that he thinks that George was first, but that's just not true.
Yeah. George was first. Sitchins was second. And Billy is
Yeah.
third. That's it. That's only people have translated these. That's
Yep.
it.
when he's reading all these wacky stories and all the Anunnaki stuff, like,
Yeah.
what's his take on it?
He is literally subscribing to this information the way almost that you and I see it today. These people saw something, experienced something, interacted with something, and he cataloged it, and it inspired him to write a complete translation of the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation. And he talks about the fact that that information was copied right from those tablets and put into the Old Testament of the Bible. And so,
Okay, I did look that up. I did find a place where George Smith claimed that the Genesis 6, for example, came from Mesopotamian texts. That was a strong belief in the 1800s that a lot of what was going on was copying. That's not really the view of scholars today. If you read scholars like Mark Smith, Richard Hess, even someone like David Carr, for example, who kind of leans kind of in the direction of more influence, but no one thinks there was like direct literary copying, because if you read Genesis alongside like the Enuma Elish, or better case would be the Atrahasis, you will find similarities. Like, there's no doubt, but there's no literary connections. It doesn't seem like one was literary borrowing from the other. So this is outdated scholarship by far. Most scholars today don't think that the authors of Genesis had like a copy of the Atrahasis or the Epic of Gilgamesh, and they're like, okay, yeah, let's take that part there. That's not what they were doing. So anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just him saying that George Smith subscribes to it in the same exact way that that they're talking about it, that these people did have interactions with these other beings. I couldn't find anything where George Smith said anything like that, that he believes that this was true and this really happened. No, his job was to translate it and tell you what it says. That's the extent of what his job was to do
and I
that.
can't find any place where George Smith says the Anunnaki came from Nibiru and were space aliens.
Right.
Anunnaki were a group of deities in the Mesopotamian mythology. They were supposed to be descendants of like Anu, the sky god, in the earth. So the Anunnaki, like that's kind of where it comes from. It's not this idea they're like an extraterrestrial race. So, all right, let's play something else.
Not exactly like it's going to go from here to the Bible, but it went to other ancient papyruses and scriptures and so forth. And then later on, when it was discovered in caves, people took those and then said, okay, we got to put this into a book. And then it became the Bible much later, around 100 AD.
Okay, did he just say the Bible was put together in 100 AD from scrolls they found in a cave?
Okay, but wait, but he also says that the Bible was put together at the Council of Nicaea. So which one is it? Which one is it?
This guy. I love this guy. He just he's got I just picture like, you remember the movie Inside Out from Pixar?
Yeah.
Like the big line of memories. I just think there are like
the balls,
the little balls. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a crazy version of that inside his head, and they're just like, just scroll up, and it gets up there, and who's ever in charge of the command center is like, let's just say this is fact. Doesn't matter if it contradicts what we said 5 seconds ago. Let's just throw it out there. So that's what's going on right now.
That is a great picture of Billy's brain.
But he subscribed to the theory that these people interacted with beings in some way, shape, or form, and that also this information is so incredible that it became part of the biblical text.
Did you ever read the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Yes, yeah.
So
I don't believe you, Billy. I don't believe you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
The Dead Sea Scrolls.
I don't think you have.
Scrolls, what was it, found in What year was that? It was in Qumran, right? They found
It's
them in these-
Qumran, but I think
No, it wasn't.
again this was also, I believe, in
Oh, wait,
the
hold
late
on.
1800s or early 1900s.
is when they-
That's what I wanted to say was wrong. I got ahead of myself because I was remembering. No, they were found in Qumran in like the 1940s, I believe, not the early 1900s or late 1800s.
Right.
found
Yeah.
them. So these things are written on animal skins, and this is the only. I mean, this is a very old version of those exact same stories, or some of similar stories.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weirdness in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Like,
Yeah.
I
But
haven't
you didn't
read it,
read
but
them.
is there any references to anything that's similar, like Anunnaki type characters, the Nephilim, or anything like that in the Dead Sea Scrolls?
They show up everywhere in the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Enuma Elish and the Epic of Atrahasis. Of course, even in the Bible, they're known as the Anak, A-N-A-K. We were grasshoppers in their eyesight, it says in the biblical text. So no matter.
I can't stand when he says biblical text. It's just like a irk. I don't know why. Every time he says it, I want to cry.
So let's just piece this together. Billy saw the English word Anunnaki. Then he saw in the Bible sons of Anak. And he went, oh, it must be the same thing because they look similar in English. That's what happened here.
Like we don't have in the Bible where they came from. You know, their forefather was Arba. We find that in Joshua 15:13. So,
So
this is human descent.
Very much so. Yeah. It's the sons of Anak are mentioned in here. You can see the first time they're mentioned is in Numbers 13. So it mentions the descendants of Anak were there. So it treats them as people. Like they went up into the Negev and came to Hebron. Okay. The descendants of Anak were there. Okay. These are not Anunnaki, like sky deities or anything like that. Now, here's what I want people to focus on as you get down here. It says, and there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who came from the Nephilim. And we seemed ourselves grasshoppers to them. My problem with this passage is no one sort of pays attention to what is said before this. It says, then the men who went up with Caleb and Joshua, says, so they brought the people of Israel a bad report of the land that they had spied out. The author of Numbers is telling us flat out, this is a bad report. And we see in the actual survey in Deuteronomy, no Nephilim. So what they're basically saying here is that the 10 spies are lying. They didn't actually see Nephilim. But even if that's the case, it treats them like just giant humans.
Right.
Not sky deities or aliens or anything like that. Like, so, you know, I don't know what to do, man. Like he
is when
knocking the Bible and ran with it.
This is when people say like Jesus is the Son because it sounds like the Son, like S-O-N and S-U-N. It's a homophone. That's what it is. And just because it sounds similar, that means it's the same thing.
Right. Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that a lot. But it's the Anunnaki are not in the Bible. They've never been in the Bible. And I mean, like, even if you take like Michael Heiser's interpretation of the Nephilim, they're still not aliens. Like the Anunnaki are not mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Nephilim are, like you have it in the Book of Enoch, the giants, for example. Like they're all over the place there, but not Mesopotamian deities to a degree. You have places in Enoch, for example, where they say Gilgamesh was like really like a Nephilim, but it's not the same theology, let alone what Zachariah Sitchins and Billy are saying. This is like this is evidence of the ancient alien astronaut hypothesis, that kind of stuff.
And it's also not canon.
Right. Yeah. Never has been. The Jews never accepted Enoch as scripture. It was never included in the Tanakh. Some early Christians did, but it was never actually officially accepted by any church councils. So keep that in mind. We making it out of the Vatican with this one. The Emerald Tablets, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Making it out with the Emerald Tablets and possibly the Essean Gospel as well. That would be great.
Just so everyone knows, it started storming here in Tucson. So if my power goes out, I'll reconnect as fast as I can, but just be advised. When it storms in Tucson, it storms. We get it like every once in a while, and it'll pour for like 30 minutes and then leave. Greetings, IP. I wanted to ask if you're going to make a video, recreate videos about consciousness in mind, because new studies seem to suggest that Dr. Penrose's theory was right. Yeah, I saw those studies. I don't think it shows his theory is right, per se. His philosophical theory, because his theory is that quantum collapse creates consciousness. And the new studies just show kind of what I already argued for, that there's quantum processes in the brain. And I take Henry Stapp's view, which is that consciousness creates quantum collapse, not the other way around. And so that's Penrose's view. So I don't think it confirms his view necessarily. Just my videos on Irreducible Mind, the 5-part series, still covers that. It's just the new studies just confirm what I was arguing there. Guys, stop giving him hate. He's legit. He got his PhD on ancient history at BSU. Can't argue with that logic.
Yeah, cannot. Let's be nicer.
Hi, IP and John. Needed to open my leather straps at 3 a.m. for this live. Blessings from Finland to you both. Do you know what that's a reference to?
I have no idea.
It is because you've not watched the streams when David Wood is on my channel.
Oh,
So
man.
David Wood found a hadith where Muhammad says the eyes are the leather strap of the anus. And so it's been a running gag on his channel and my channel,
Oh,
AP's
man.
channel for months now.
I'm glad I'm in the loop now. Glad I'm in the loop.
Yeah. Just remember your eyes. They're nice looking leather straps.
2 left arms.
Muhammad also had a wall sticky in his room.
Oh, I bet you it wasn't as nice as this one.
That's not what I'm not even going to explain that one.
I
People
know.
will know. Everyone knows IP can't read. You're absolutely right. I did not read this super chat at all. I have no idea what came out of my mouth. Thank you, Sus Mike Jones from Side World.
From Side World? Why? Because he's sideways?
Yeah, exactly. Ancient China proves you they're Jews. The symbol for blood is a chalice with a drop. Shang-Di, meaning the god above the emperor May Adonai. Yeah, I looked into the whole Shang-Di thing, and there are various interpretations. A lot of it's conjecture that he was like originally a monotheistic god. A lot of scholars don't agree. So when I made a case for ancient monotheism, I even left that out because it was such a convoluted debate in the scholarship around that. So I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. Everybody hating on Billy till the Anunnaki show up. They're coming. They're going to Billy's right. I'm like, we've been telling you. We sent Billy.
Yep.
Why didn't you listen to him?
Made me a believer, Billy.
Why is it called 2 Samuel when Samuel is dead? Because he didn't write it. He's like the main figure that starts it off. So we just sort of name those books after him because, he sort of starts off the list of kings that we get. And so, just sort of went with it. Actually, and if you look in like the Greek Orthodox Bible, it's actually called 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 3 Kings, and 4th Kings. So I actually think that's better, but I mean, like, it is what it is. It's just a naming thing. We came up with at a later point. I forget who did though. BRB got to get a DNA from both Terrence Howard and Billy Carson in order to formulate the next step in human evolution. Yeah, because we'll get to that. We will get to that because Billy likes to argue the Anunnaki created humans by merging their DNA with like primate DNA. So it's not evolution. It's basically intelligent design if you want to think about it.
It's the MCU.
Exactly. All right, let's play a little bit more here.
No matter where you go in any culture, you're going to discover that these beings, in some way, shape, or form, engaged mankind, brought knowledge, teaching, building techniques, and just so much more wisdom and information, esoteric wisdom, alchemy. All these things came from these people.
So
real quick, no, in the Mesopotamian mythology, the various accounts, it's the Apkallu that sort of come up and teach humanity all these things. It's not necessarily Anunnaki directly. Now, I think there might be some where they talk about them teaching them certain things, but it's the main source of knowledge that humans obtain comes from the Apkallu, which is like a different group that are sort of like lesser type deity type things. You get different interpretations depending on who you read, but it's not the Anunnaki directly. It's the Apkallu that come up from the sea, not come down from the sky too. So
the craziest version of this story is that they genetically engineered us out of lower primates and put us here to mine gold.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then established different types of civilizations and taught us how to build things, taught us all these different things. And enough time has passed that we've kind of forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Enough time has passed. That's the wackiest version of it, right?
Right. That's the bare bones minimum.
Yeah.
Wackiest
version.
that's just recycled Zachariah Sitchin.
Yeah, but
that's where he got this from.
I just love how Joe Rogan is like, yeah, that's the wackiest version. And meanwhile, that's the version that Billy believes. And he's just like, yeah, so the bare bones, the bare bones.
It absolutely is wacky. And again, that's not in the Sumerian tablets. That's in Zechariah Sitchin's.
Right.
Billy didn't read any Sumerian or Akkadian tablets. He read Zechariah Sitchin's and he pretended he read the tablets.
They are
They
difficult
made up.
reads. I'm sorry.
Oh.
They're
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
they're difficult reads. Like it's not smooth flowing English. It's not.
No, and that's because their language is a lot different. For example, Sumerian is a tonal language. You can, you change the meaning based on how you enunciate the word. It's a very unique language, unlike anything else in the region. That's why we think maybe the Sumerians came from somewhere else. There's different theories on that. Some think
They
they
came
were
from
culture-
Nibiru. They came from Nibiru, dude.
Yeah, good point. I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah.
Eat us,
Mhm.
which is we've talked about this a couple of times, but how bizarre it is that human beings have this incredible fascination for gold.
Mhm.
We're fascinated with gold.
Because it's shiny. It's the same reason we like diamonds and emeralds and sapphire and silver.
This part of the conversation is so it's trying. It's trying.
Yeah.
This fascination with gold is really weird.
Mhm.
Like, why back when it was basically useless? You couldn't make a knife out of it. You
Right.
couldn't, like it didn't make sense that this would be so valuable. Just
Yeah.
because it's rare, you're barely alive.
Right.
We're going, right? We're going back to full on hunter and
Yeah.
gatherer, our ancestors with spears and stone chipped. And then after that, gold emerges
Mhm.
and it stays.
Yeah.
It stays forever. Now, when you read Zechariah Sitchin's book, he talks about this in the 1970s.
Okay, Joe, do you know why women put glitter eyeshadow on?
Because it's purdy.
It's purdy. It's absolutely right. And that's why humans like gold. It was purdy. The royalty could dress themselves in it. They looked shiny. People like to look shiny. That's why we like gold and diamonds and gems and silver and bronze even. I mean, it has nothing to do with like this weird conspiracy.
And
We
even
dug up a rock. It was shiny. And we said, we should find more of the shiny rock.
right. It's also interesting how out of like one side of this conversation, it's these ancient aliens came down and taught us all of this stuff and technology and the pyramids and all that stuff. And then out the other side, it's like, yeah, I mean, we were just hunters and gatherers. Why did we want gold? It's like, which one is it? Pick a narrative. Just pick it.
I love it.
70s. His description of it was that they needed to suspend gold particles in the atmosphere
Mhm.
because their atmosphere was being destroyed.
Right.
Then you move to like somewhere around the 2000s when climate scientists start proposing this idea of
Mhm.
suspending reflective particles in the atmosphere.
Right.
And then when you realize the unique properties of gold, how unusual it is in terms of like a building material, you can coat things.
Mhm.
The reason why things are like coated in gold, silver plated, or gold plated rather, you can take a tiny piece of gold and cover an enormous area with it. It's
Yeah.
a strange metal.
Yeah.
Like really weird.
Okay, so what is he talking about?
I don't know. It's also interesting that you just spoke about how you were asking the question, why would we be so interested in gold? And then you went and described all of these amazing properties that it has. Maybe that's why,
Yeah, like you could cover plates in it. You could cover, cups in it. You could cover, like the sides of buildings and chairs and coffins in it. That's why, like, it's a shiny metal that expresses wealth, and it's also rare. I mean, it just there's not a vast conspiracy you need here. You just got offered a much simpler explanation, Joe, which is that it just is useful for early humans to cover things.
Plus
All right.
aliens.
Oh, well, yeah, and then we got aliens in there, but it's really sad when they answer their own conundrum by offering the simplest explanation, but then they're still like aliens. Like, wow.
Yeah, there's gold dust in
And
events.
what the supposed story is, it's very common on Earth, very rare on Nibiru.
Right. Yeah, that's the story. And then when I started looking
Hold on.
into this gold thing myself, and here's what I came up with. So
Oh, boy.
when you start,
Here's what Billy came up with. Whenever time you hear Billy say, "Here's what I came up with," you might want to sit down because you're about to hear a whole lot of nonsense.
analyzing the text, you discover that there was an encampment in a place called South Africa at Adam's Calendar. Okay. Now, at Adam's Calendar, there's actually the very first gold mines discovered. They're dating them back to about 200,000 years ago. And that's incredible because there's a building there that looks like a worn down structure. Now, in the tablets, it talks about the fact that the Ijiji, who were the working class Anunnaki beings who were cleaning out the Euphrates.
What does that even mean? If there was a building there that looks like a worn down structure. What does that statement mean? There's a building there that looks like a worn down structure.
Well, this is how he lies. Now he can say, well, if there was a building there, this really old site, it had to be aliens. Wink, wink. But I mean, like, if you just go to Wikipedia, it says the Bokani people, I'm probably butchering that, are estimated to have built a stone-walled settlement around the early 16th century. This isn't some ancient Mesopotamian Anunnaki structure. This was built after Christopher Columbus died. Like, well, not died, I guess, when he was still alive then, because it says early 16th century. But you get the idea here. This is not some ancient structure. This is something they built very, very recently. What else does he say about that? Let me put it back up here because I know he goes on a little bit more about that.
Yeah. And it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
So they can create irrigation and, create a bustling civilization. Also, they were doing the actual construction themselves. No people needed, just them working. They were like the construction workers, and Anu and Enki and Enlil, these leader gods, were like, the foremen, the art master.
So this is true in the Atrahasis. It says like the gods are sort of like above, and they have the Ijiji, which are like the lower gods doing all the work, and then the Ijiji rebel in the Atrahasis.
Architects and so forth, right? The boss. So these people were working, but they weren't supposed to be enslaved. They were volunteers. They got tired of doing the work, according to them, for about 250,000 years of labor on Earth, and also, according to them, on Mars. This is in the text. They call it Lamu. And so,
no, they don't call it Lamu. Lamu is Lamu is depicted. He's a bearded guy. He's a deity in Mesopotamian mythology. Okay, he's not like he's got children. Like he's not like he's associated with certain monsters. He's not a planet. The word for Mars in this ancient mythology is Nergal, Nergal, and Nergal is a deity. He's like a war god. They didn't look at Mars as like another planet you could live on. They saw the planets and the stars as deities. The same thing the Romans and the Greeks did when they looked at Jupiter and they said that's Zeus. They're saying like that's a deity. Mesopotamians did the same thing. They didn't look at Mars, Nergal, as a planet you could go visit. It was a deity to them. So this is just simply wrong. And Lamu is not the name for Mars. That's just wrong.
It's in the text, though. It's in the text.
What text?
The text.
Oh, the text.
Yeah, it's in the text.
I love when he does that. He's like, this is all accurate. Look it up. And then you look it up and you're like, this is not what any of this says. Like, what are you talking about?
You might want to stop saying that part, Billy. The look it up part. Just stop saying that part.
All right, let's finish out this section. Then we're going to jump ahead a little bit.
Oh, they decided to go to war against Enki and Lil and Anu because their demands had not been met. So they went to meet them in the Epic of Atrahasis. They go to Adam's Calendar. They go to that same structure that was discovered where that gold mine is located.
That's right, folks. They went into the future to the 16th century AD at Adam's Calendar. That's where they went.
I was like, holy crap, there is some link here to gold. Specifically, exactly, I don't know. But I know if you're an advanced civilization, you need gold.
How do you
people that you have working
how
for
do you
probably
know that? Like, how do you know if you're an advanced civilization, you need gold? How do you know this? And if they're so advanced, why do they have to come back here to go get gold? Like their whole entire cycle of life is going to come to a screeching halt if they don't mine the gold at Adam's Calendar that didn't exist.
Here's the interesting part. I think when Chernobyl actually melted, like had their big meltdown, certain elements, some of the lead there was actually turned into gold because of the radiation that actually happened there. So if you're an advanced civilization, You have nuclear fusion. You don't need to come mine gold on some distant planet that's light years away. You should be able to just make it. There's like so many holes in his theory here. It just doesn't work.
Probably think, it's to adorn or to adorn yourself or in recognition of the gods. So they'll wear it and they'll utilize it, but not for technology. But what's crazy is they go to war, they get ready to go to battle. And then Enki says, I have an idea that will stop this war. There's an existing being on this planet, existing, not something that doesn't exist, existing. We can add our essence to it with a slain god. So they're talking about taking the DNA or genetics from one of themselves and mixing it with the DNA of the hominid that was here. It's not specified whether it was, an ape man or anything, but they don't specify in the tablets. But
no, they do specify, Billy. That's just wrong. Let's pull it up here. I'll pull up the Atrahasis, and we can take a look at that, and I'll show you what it says. So here we have the Atrahasis here. You can see right there at the top. So, is that legible? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Enki made his voice heard and spoke to the gods. On the 1st, 7th, and 15th of the months, I shall make purification by watching. Then one god should be slaughtered, and the gods can be purified by immersion. Nitu shall mix clay with his flesh and his blood. Then a god and a man will be mixed together in clay. Let us hear the drum beat forever after. Let a ghost come into existence from the god's flesh. Let her proclaim it as his living son, and let the ghost exist so as not to forget the slain god. They answered yes in the assembly, the great Anunnaki who assigned the fates. Okay, then he goes on. He says the same thing. They slaughtered in their assembly, need to mix with clay with his flesh and blood. So what did they mix with? They tell us clay. It was mixed with clay, not an ape man or a primate. Clay.
It's in the text.
Yeah, look it up. Look it up, guys. Come on.
Look it up. It's in the text.
Yeah. All right. You guys keep sending in super chats. Much appreciated. I'm going to get to some more here so that we don't get too far behind. Billy looks perma high watching. What you smoking, Billy?
Smoking gold dust.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, smart guy. Next, you're going to tell me that the country of Turkey isn't filled with a bunch of intelligent turkeys. Yeah, right. You got me. I might say that. Who knows? Billy Carson's first words in this video nearly made me do a spit take. Leading world's expert on ancient texts. Yeah, you and me both. But that's the kind of stuff he does. It's over and over the same nonsense. He just pretends to be an expert to fool his fans into buying his nonsense. It's why we call him a liar and a grifter. They came from somewhere else. Your eyes have opened. So again, we have breaking news from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth themselves telling us, and apparently in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, it says, and I quote, they came from somewhere else. Who is the Zay? We do not know, but we will find out. You still there, John? Your webcam went out.
I'm here. I'm trying to get that thing moving again.
What is this? Amateur hour?
Nah, you know what it is? It's because I need gold.
You don't have enough.
Yeah, I don't have enough gold.
You got to put some of that gold on it. But when you come back, you better have some gold somewhere on your head somewhere. Is Billy by any chance an Afrocentrist? I don't know. Do you know if he is, John?
So I don't necessarily know if he's Afrocentrist, but he was really big in the conscious community, the Black conscious community. They seem to have separated themselves a little bit from him.
I can't imagine why.
Well, many of them, they believe that the Black woman is God, right? And he does not hold to that view. And he also married, I believe, an Asian woman. So therefore, he is committing blasphemy. He had a nice run in the conscious community as well. So whether he's Afrocentric or not, I don't know, but I do know that for a brief period of time, the conscious community loved him.
Interesting. Really sounds very similar to that my grandma saying to me, woman in Netflix, Queen Cleopatra. I have no idea what that is, so I apologize.
Adula oblongata.
Guess what? Did you know Jesus was actually a mushroom based on some words that kind of almost sound the same? Joe, whoa, sounds legit. Guess two. We have thousands of manuscripts backing the Gospels. Joe, but they're in Greek. Yeah,
Pretty much.
The whole mushroom theory is one of my favorite theories.
Yeah, me too.
John Allegro Marcro. Was that I think Marco's theory? Yeah, it's Jesus was really a magic mushroom. It's boy.
Based on some drawing that was found somewhere.
How would you explain 1 Corinthians 15:28? Some anti-Trinitarians say it's a clear passage showing Jesus ontologically subordinate to the Father. Well, let me just read it really quickly here. It says, when all things are subject to him, then the Son himself will also be subject to him who put all things in subjugation under him, that God may be all in all. I mean, the Trinity doctrine is always specified that Jesus is God of God, light of light. He is begotten of the Father. So he is subject to the Father in role, even though they share in the same substance and ontological essence. So it's only anti-Trinitarians will use that because they're straw manning what we believe. Right. We have always argued that Jesus is subordinate to the Father, but they are of the same essence, of the same substance. They share in all the same intrinsic properties, even though Jesus is subject to the Father because he is begotten of the Father. So yeah, it's just they don't understand the Trinity doctrine, is what I would say. That's why the earliest residents of Goblet Tepe would collect blood for the blood throne, because the blood powers corn from the eye of terror. Is that Star Trek? Corn from the eye of terror? That sounded very familiar.
I gotta look it up.
Look it up. Because yeah, I'd be interested to see. Anyway, all right. While you do that, I'm gonna put the video. Oh, I'll do one more super chat here.
Warhammer.
Hey guys, what was that?
Warhammer.
Warhammer. Okay, that makes sense. Hey guys, would you be willing to write a short book disproving Billy? It'd be really fun to read. You could do that, John. You've written books.
Yeah, I've written one. I'm halfway through another one. I'm currently
your book title's on your shirt.
Oh well, it's part of the merch. But that's actually how I came across Billy. Was what he did this video talking about how much money religion makes, and then I saw he was into the law of attraction. And so that's kind of what got him on my radar, because I do a lot of debunking that stuff. But I'm probably not going to spend time writing a book debunking Billy. I really do think he's hitting his pinnacle right now.
I think you're right. Yeah. People are catching on to him much faster than they did for like Zachariah Sitchin or, as I mentioned, Jordan Maxwell. So, all right. So the next clip we have on time markers, let me pull this up here. Pull back up, Joe. Our good old buddy Joe.
Oh man, crazy.
What a great quote.
Yeah.
So the idea is that there were beings that were having wars on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Were they? Do you believe they were having wars with people that were revolting, or were they having wars with other beings?
They were fighting with each other, and evidence of these wars can be found in the book of Deuteronomy in the modern day Bible. These gods, and I do mean gods with an S, because everywhere in the Bible where it says God singular, it's actually a mistranslation. The actual, if you backwards look up the translation in Arabic and then down to Aramaic and everything else, you find out it's gods plural.
Dude, they were Arabic.
Arabic?
Yeah, Arabic.
Like you gotta take the Hebrew, translate it into Arabic, and then Aramaic, and then what? That's not how it works.
You got to back engineer it to a language that was never there.
Yeah. You got to back engineer Hebrew to a language that came later, which is Arabic. Okay,
right.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That's the way you do it, Billy.
It's the way you do it.
Look it up.
The word Elohim is a concretized abstract plural. It's a plural word, no doubt, that can be used for singular. So think of the English word sheep. You can have one sheep or many sheep. The same is with Elohim. We know when Elohim is singular because the verbs in Hebrew are also singular. So if you read Genesis 1, it says God created singular. It does not say God's created because the verbs are not plural. So he's just absolutely wrong here. Elohim, most often in the Bible, is used singular because it's a concretized abstract plural. It does not just mean gods.
One of the foremost experts in ancient texts.
Yeah, man, he knows as the foremost expert, you gotta back Hebrew up into Arabic, which is the language that came later, because that's how it works.
That's how we do it on this side of the moon.
and people and control of the planet. And so that's why in the book of Deuteronomy, God tells people, go to this city, and it's like a far city where they don't even know that these people exist. They go over there to kill them. He says, kill the women, kill the children, and bring the spoils of war back to me. And you see these wars in the Mahabharata.
No, that's again a misunderstanding of the text. Should I put up some slides here? I guess I could do that because I did this.
Yes,
I've done
be
this so many
professional.
times.
Be professional. Okay.
I have
Pull up the
talked about this
slides.
so many times
Doesn't
to
matter.
the point of like, to the point of exhaustion. Like, you just can't read Joshua literally because it doesn't make sense in that context. Joshua is often writing in terms of hagiographic hyperbole. Now, what does that mean? So it's like when it says things like, you know, like you kill all the men, women, and children, it's hyperbole. It's like saying go and like annihilate them all. It's
Right.
not, you know, it's not saying literally kill them all. So like the word haram doesn't even mean destroy. It means remove from use. We see the word haram used in places like Leviticus 17, Numbers 18, to not referring to destruction, but devoted things. They're devoted to the priests to be used because they've been removed from use by the people to be used by the priests. Like you go to hagiographic hyperbole, the Gabal Barkle stele of Tutmosis says that he overthrew the great army in a twinkling of an eye. It had perished completely. Okay, it sounds kind of like what Joshua says, like utterly annihilated kind of stuff. Okay, the Merneptah stele says Israel is laid waste, its seed is ruined. In Joshua, it says when the sons of Joshua and Israel had finished striking them with the great blow until they were wiped out, and when the remnant that had remained, well, wait a minute. What do you mean there was a remnant that remained? I thought you said they were wiped out.
It's the same sentence.
Same sentence. The scholars have noted there's hyperbolic nature in Joshua's account. It's literally not saying go kill all the men, women, and children. It's saying utterly defeat them, destroy them, and it's using the hyperbolic language of the day to communicate that. So, yeah, it's not actually saying that, but I just wanted to briefly touch on that because, yeah, I figured we should just address it anyway because I'm so sick of hearing it.
And you never know. Somebody could be in here that has never heard a rebuttal to it. So,
yeah, I dealt with it more in my video, Exodus Rediscovered, The Conquest. So if anyone wants more, just check that out.
The Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, the Sumerian tablets. And these wars are just nonstop. The Indian Vedas. And it's always about attacking another city. And they even talk about Trojan horse methods to get behind the gates and then to, you know, utilize that to attack and kill and bring back these spoils, which is pretty crazy stuff. It's like they were attacking each other. They had gone awry. They had gone rogue out here on this planet and then began to fight over people and populations. All
right. Well, he just sort of goes on for a while. I'm going to move ahead a little bit to the next clip because, yeah, I mean, there's nothing else really there. It's not in Deuteronomy. It doesn't mention God's warring. The closest you get is in the book of Numbers. It mentions a obscure book that we've lost called the book of the Wars of Yahweh. But we don't know what that book says. It was probably an account of just like it was probably like epic poetry of God fighting, you know, off the Egyptians, the Canaanites, this kind of stuff. So as far as that's what I've heard certain scholars talk about. But again, it's so speculative, but that's the closest you get to anything in the Bible that would resemble what Billy is talking about.
I had a difficult time trying to understand exactly where in Deuteronomy he's pulling this from.
Out of his ass.
Oh, okay. Out of the leather straps.
The leather straps. He opened his leather straps and they came out.
We were brought here. We could be genetically, I don't believe we're even from Earth, to be quite honest with you. Our psychotic rhythm doesn't even match Earth's rotation on its axis.
Okay, I just want to play that again because I just
I love what he's. We got to bring it back. Hold
on. Everyone listen very closely.
Please.
We were brought here. We could be genetically, I don't believe we're even from Earth, to be quite honest with you. Our psychotic rhythm doesn't even match Earth's.
That's right, folks. Your psychotic rhythm doesn't match.
Your psychotic rhythm.
Your circadian rhythm.
Psychotic.
I'll give him credit. I think I've done that before where I've said something and it just, the words get confused in your head. That's a common human thing. But
I've done it too. I've done it too.
I don't think he doesn't know what the circadian rhythm is. I just think he messed up his words. It's just funny he said your psychotic rhythm.
I know, it's so awesome.
A rotation on its axis was slightly off. It's actually better tuned to Mars orbit on its rotation on its own axis than
What do
it
you
is
mean
Earth.
So is our circadian rhythm better tuned to Mars, John?
No, he's pulling this from a study that showed that 1 in 75 people have this like genetic mutation in which they're psychotic. I can't stop thinking of it. Their circadian rhythm is just a little bit off, and also he gets the hours of Mars wrong too. So it's not everybody who has this. It's 1 in 75 people.
Yeah, we're not better tuned for Mars. Again, he just says this stuff and he never provides a good source to back it up. But all right, I'm gonna move ahead a little bit here.
Yeah.
weird? We accept shit like leap year.
Right.
Like
That's
what kind
because-
of whack
oh my gosh.
calendar do you have?
We accept
What's
leap year because the it's like 365 in like a quarter day.
Right.
And so if we just kept it and we didn't have a leap year, the seasons would be all off.
Yeah, man, it's a weird argument to even bring up. Like, don't you understand how that works?
Pretty bizarre. But you know what's interesting? If you want to say, oh, human beings could be aliens, well, actually, every person on this planet is an alien. Even our planet itself is an alien. Scientists just discovered something interesting. I've never talked about this yet on the podcast, and you guys can look this up. So
We did.
our Milky Way galaxy
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we looked it up.
is pretty interesting because it's absorbing another galaxy at this exact moment called the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy. Not the Sagittarius constellation. That's something totally different. We are absorbing the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy at this exact moment. People thought for all these decades, looking, or even hundreds of years, looking up in the night sky, seeing that swath of stars going across, that's the Milky Way. Guess what? We've been wrong the whole time. This is now being taught in universities in astrophysics. So what you're looking at the absorption or the merging of the Sagittarius with the Milky Way galaxy. And the exact point where it merges and drops into the Milky Way is right where our solar system is located.
Does he know how big the galaxy is? Like we're at the exact point. Like that would be insane.
He's completely misunderstanding or misrepresenting the data on this. This is something that scientists believe happened once already, like just through the motion of stars and galaxies and universes. Like they believe that this happened already once before. Yeah. And when he says, we think that we look up in the sky, and I'm talking about millions of years in the past, but when he says when we look up in the sky, we're not seeing the stars that are in the Milky Way, we're seeing the stars in the dwarf galaxy of Sagittarius. No, we're not. We're seeing the stars in the Milky Way. I think, and I could be wrong on this number, but I think in my research I saw that there's only like 350,000 stars in this dwarf galaxy, and we got millions, bajillions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy. So, no, Billy, we looked it up.
Yeah, this is just pure nonsense. And that wouldn't even support his claim that we're aliens because we're still from Earth.
Right.
Like we're like, that doesn't, you don't know what aliens are.
You're like, what does that even mean?
You want to,
our planet is an alien.
Let's play a little bit more here.
Yeah.
Which would explain the rogue planets that we know that are out there. There's millions of rogue planets that have no sun, that are just floating free around. There's planets and solar systems that are orbiting far beyond the orbit of Pluto in our inner Oort cloud, admitted by astronomers now, that there's other solar systems within this inner Oort cloud area orbiting our sun every 4,200 years. So all of a sudden, that's Corey Powell, the astronomer at Discovery magazine, by the way, who said that.
Hold on. Corey Powell is not an astronomer. He's an editor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's not I need you guys to hear this. He's not an astronomer. This is something that Billy read in a magazine from an editor. And then he's on Joe Rogan podcast. And I never told anybody this before. Like, what in the Adams calendar is going on?
I don't like psychoanalyzing people. So I'm not saying this is fact, but I'm just speculating here. But it just seems like he really wants to be special. He doesn't want to be just a human on a planet in a normal galaxy. He wants to be from Mars or coming from a different galaxy that's sort of blended in this one, or have the DNA of like the Anunnaki. Like, he doesn't just want to be a normal human. So we invent like a story to make ourselves more special that just isn't based in fact.
Well,
Like,
I mean, just how about accepting Jesus as your savior, and now you have the Holy Spirit living in you, and you are a child of the creator of the entire universe.
because, and people will say, well, that's all Christianity is. You just made up stories to feel special. Because when you do that, it's not about your own glory and how special you are. It's about how special Christ is and what he did. And you're a sinner who needs saved by grace. So Christianity has this weird, like, dichotomy here where we have to accept that we're more loved by God than we realize, but we're also more sinful than we realize. So we don't get to feel super special. We have to be humble. We have to come before God and say, hey, I need a savior. I can't get through this. So it doesn't scratch that itch of, oh, I'm this special person. I'm going to find glory for myself kind of thing. So a lot of issues there kind of thing. But yeah, it's wow, it's interesting to say the least here. Anything you want to add on that section before we move on to the next part?
No,
because the next part is something I really want to get to.
All right, let's do it.
No, we'll do some super chats first. But it's on the tale of Adapa. And the reason why I want to get to that is because I actually wrote about that when I was getting my master's.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I took a class in I was getting my master's in philosophy, and I was taking a class on the philosophy of aesthetics, and I asked my professor, could I write my paper in this class on like philosophy in the ancient Near East, because they told their philosophy through stories, which relates to aesthetics kind of, and he approved it, so I was happy to do that. So all right, here, let's get to some more here. He says, hey, can you explain in detail why Catholics and Orthodox Christians still believe Protestants are saved? My understanding was that the Eucharist and mortal sin, it isn't possible. Depends on who you talk to.
It's probably a case-by-case basis on what specific individuals believe.
Yeah, look, I'll find Protestants that say Catholics aren't saved, and I'll find Catholics that say Protestants aren't saved. And quite frankly, I say both are saved because it's based on what Scripture teaches. You know, like Romans 10:9, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe that he died for your sins and God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. End of story. By grace you are saved, not of works, that no man may boast. Ephesians 2, this kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, you could make the case that maybe the Catholics or a certain Protestant group has a better understanding of Scripture and is closer to what Christ wanted. That's where the debate is. But I would never say neither group is unsaved. I'd say both are saved because they both profess Jesus as Lord, believe essential Christian doctrines, these kinds of things. So, and of course, Protestants still do communion. They just, like, if you go to like an Anglican, a Presbyterian, or a Lutheran church, they're going to say it is the literal body and blood of Jesus, in agreement with Catholics, this kind of stuff. So it's, and I've talked to Catholics who say that they think that, if you're using grape juice, first of all, that can be sacrilegious, which I've moved in that direction, but not that it's like a damnable thing. It just means you're missing a very important element of what Christ commanded. But that's a whole nother topic for another time. Is it true that no archaeological discoveries has, I think you meant contradicted the Bible or proved a part of it wrong? I know there's debate on some finds, but that's it. I would say there's no biblical find that has sort of disproved the Bible. It used to be Jericho for a while, but the latest reports have actually come out and blown that narrative out of the water. So by Lorenzo Nigro in 2020.
The more they keep digging, the more they keep finding stuff that corroborates what the Bible says.
Now, archaeological discoveries will contradict certain interpretations. So like late date for the Exodus is the evidence. Early date has very little, if at all. So certain interpretations, but not the Bible itself is what I would say. Read John's Law of Attraction if you can. Yeah, that's his book that came out. So highly recommend you pick that up. It's on his t-shirt. I have it.
It's only partly on the t-shirt.
Hold on, I'll put it up. I put it up. I got it right behind it. Hold on. Oh, it's got so many books, it's stuck.
The whole shelf falls down.
Pretty much, yeah. But here it is.
Nice.
And then if you turn it upside down, whoa, it's the same guy. But
I made it with gold that I mined for 200,000 years.
Illusion. Law of attraction, a gateway drug to spiritual heroin, to be more precise. Yeah, and tell everyone what the law of attraction is and why you debunked it.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, it's your thoughts and speech create your reality, right? When you think something, it sends out a frequency to the universe and it connects with the same exact frequency, and therefore the universe has no choice but to bring what you're thinking about into fruition in your life. So you can use it to attract money, attract relationships, there's even in one of their books, the more popular ones, they say that if you don't want to get fat, just don't think fat thoughts, this type of nonsense. And the underlying worldview is new thought, new age spirituality. So it's rooted in some pretty Luciferian philosophies. So I advise Christians to stay away from it. And I spent the book debunking the whole entire thing. Whether you're a Christian or not, if you still believe in the law of attraction after reading that book, it's because you want to, Billy.
Yeah. Law of attraction, a gateway drug to spiritual heroin. So what I heard, if I start thinking tall, I'll be on a basketball team soon.
It's a fact.
That's how it works.
The universe has no choice but to give you what you want.
You see?
Thank you for the shameless plug.
Coming from Mormonism, I have seen people make words mean whatever they want them to mean to support their beliefs. I see the same from Billy. Very true. And unfortunately, he's fooling a lot of gullible people. Were you talking about James Henry Rollins of LDS, or Henry Rollins, the singer of Black Flag that explored Iran and has been on Joe Rogan? Both. It's the same person.
Yes.
Twist. The rhythm of our leather straps matches Mars' permanent Aeon Flux. This is scientific fact from Dr. Brown himself. Marty, back to the future. Abdullah.
I like that person. Whoever that is, I like that person.
There are so many like weird hadiths that like we just happen to come across. Like there's one that says like Islam will like recede back between two moss like a serpent into the hole it came out of. Something like that. Like, yeah, it's like a weird hadith of Muhammad. It says like the Islam is like a snake that'll crawl back into the hole from when it came from. It says something like that. It's like it's in Sahih Muslim. Yeah.
It's an interesting religion. It definitely is.
John's book is on Amazon. That is true. I want to make sure I got to that one.
That's my wife. She sent a super chat.
Is that your wife? Oh, okay.
Yep.
I see the last name. I get it.
Yep.
I see the connection now. Bada bing. All right. So yeah, you can get it on there. All right. Let's get back to this here. I'm going to put Billy, our good friend, back up, and we're going to get on to the Tale of Adapa.
The people,
Yeah.
like some like the.
You're right.
Because if there's anthropologists are looking at chimpanzees now, and they're looking at them and saying they're entering into the Stone Age.
Yeah.
Like they're using tools now. Now, if you watch that same chimpanzee and you went a few million years in the future, who knows what it looks like? Probably looks like an upward looking human that has much more intricate tools. Or who knows if it's created stone weapons, structures, houses. They may develop a language.
True.
You could watch chimpanzees over the course of evolution, but that's too slow.
Yeah.
And so if you were another highly intelligent being for another planet, you're like, look, they're going to get there. We'll give them a little push. Give them a little something.
And the evidence of that.
For those who don't,
hold up. They definitely smoked a fat blunt before this podcast.
What about that face right there says they smoked weed? What about that face? I don't see what you're talking about. He looks as peachy as pie. So for those who don't know, they're talking about, again, Zechariah Sitchin's, not in the Sumerian tablets, idea that the Anunnaki were aliens that came to Earth, took a primate, blended it with their own DNA to make humans. No evidence for that, but Billy is going to try to provide some here.
So that is in tablets called the Myth of Adapa, which means first man. The Myth of Adapa, an ancient Sumerian text. It's a tablet. And in this tablet, you can buy the book Myth of Adapa on Amazon. You can read it for yourself, completely translated, and translated by scholars, by the way. And it's talking about the fact that according to the Anunnaki, human beings were created in a way that genetically we were supposed to become more superior than them. They didn't know this was going to happen. And Lil was angry at his brother Enki because Enki put a little extra in the sauce. Yeah, a little
Really?
extra. And he said that the mysteries to unlock the secrets of the universe is hidden within our bodies, and that we ourselves can rise to be even higher than them. This was a major thing to be putting into text like this. Now, who sits around
How did
and
they
writes this?
specific? That sounds insane.
It is insane, Joe. It absolutely is. You're right. That's not what the myth of Adapa says. So
Right.
in the myth of Adapa is a sage at the city of Eridu who serves as god Ea or Enki. He goes out to get fish to sacrifice for Enki, and a big wind comes in, and so Adapa pronounces a curse on the wind. He gets in trouble because that wind was supposed to blow in rain, but it causes a big drought in the land. So Adapa has got to go to heaven before the god Anu, the head god, answer for the crime. Before he goes, his god Enki in Eridu tells him, don't drink or eat anything in heaven. It will kill you. Don't do that. Put on sackcloth, ash, go up there, really lament. He doesn't go on a spaceship. He's supposed to go to heaven. So he goes, he's in sackcloth and ash. When he gets to the gates of heaven, two gods, Tammuz and Gish-Zitah, see him. And they go, hey, look at Adapa. He's clearly repentant. Let's go tell Anu, he's good. He's really repenting. So they go and tell Anu. Anu is going to offer him the food and drink of immortal life. You can see where this is going. Adapa goes in. Anu offers it to him. He says no. And the ending of the myth of Adapa is really fragmented, but he basically has to go back to Earth because he insulted Anu. He rejected it. So basically the story is Enki granted him wisdom, but he lacked eternal life. So he got offered the chance to get eternal life by Anu. He lost that. So he's got to go back to Earth, having gained wisdom from Enki previously, but losing immortality. And what a lot of writers will say is this is sort of like a narrative on the way humans feel about themselves. We're like halfway between the gods and animals. We have intelligence like the gods. We can talk, we can speak, we can reason, but we're not immortal like the gods. So we're not like the animals, but we're also like the gods. We're somewhere in between. And some people connect it to Genesis 3, like you have a similar motif and themes there. Trygve Menninger wrote about this in his book, The Eden Narrative, where he compares and contrasts, and he makes the conclusion Genesis isn't borrowing from the tale of Adapa, but there's similar motifs in themes because these were ideas ancient humans were struggling with. So they put them into different texts or stories, or like, how is it that we lack immortality, but we're like the gods in terms of wisdom? And that's basically what the tale of Adapa is trying to get at. It's not a story about making humans from like genetic modifications or anything like that. He's taken bits and pieces from the myth of Adapa, the parts he liked, and he just sort of used it to push his agenda.
Yeah, he embellishes it.
Very much so, and that bothers me because the myth of Adapa is just an interesting tale. It really taps into the psychology of like, why is it like, where are humans? Like we have intelligence, so we're different from the animals, but we're also still like the animals in that we die and we came from the dust, into the dust we return, this kind of stuff. So it's about the uniqueness of humanity and how we don't feel like we're at home in either place. And so it's an interesting story, and it's just a shame that Billy can't represent it fairly and give it a good hearing. But what are you going to do? It's in the text. Look it up. Look it up, guys. All right. You want to move on to the next clip? Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I had no idea that you did a paper on that for your master's. That's freaking awesome.
Oh yeah, I think it's just an interesting story. I wish it was fully like together. It's a shame that it's so fragmented, but yeah. All right,
like nothing else in the world. No one's even a distant second place.
No, not even close.
Egypt wild. Egypt can just stand above all of it, and it was so long ago.
Yeah, it's super ancient. And what I like about Jonathan West, his theory aligns with the Emerald Tablets date range, because when he talks about the Great Sphinx being built 2 processional periods back, it takes it back to around 38,000 years ago, around the same time that Thoth claims to have written the Emerald Tablets. And in these tablets,
Thoth, around the same time Thoth claimed to have
Thoth.
You mean Maurice Doriel claimed this? Not Thoth. Thoth doesn't exist. He didn't do any of this stuff. So Do you want to explain what he's talking about here?
I think we got to keep going.
Okay.
I'm having trouble pulling it all together.
All right, let's go a little bit more.
Tablets, he talks about building the Great Pyramid. He said, "Builded I the Great Pyramid, patterned after Earth's force, so that it too might remain through the ages." So he claims to be the master architect of the structure of the Great Pyramid. And what he did was he incorporated into it advanced science. It's not just a power generator. It's also, in my opinion, it also could be a multifunctional stone computer. Okay.
It's just like the assumption is thrown there. Like, it's obviously a power generator. Like, obviously, guys. But it also could be a computer.
What's interesting is like, as advanced as these beings allegedly are, they just slapped together stones and built a triangle. 3 of them. That's what they did. It really boggles my mind that people are so blown away at the pyramids. I mean, they're amazing. My wife has been to Egypt. She says they're incredible. But if we're talking about this caliber of being who supposedly built these things, they're just rocks piled up on top of each other. That's how a lot of ancient civilizations built things. They just piled rocks on top of each other. And I'm not trying to diminish how incredibly difficult it probably was to do all this. But he then goes on to, like, I don't know if it's in this clip, but he talks about like these space age weapons that they use and everything. It might be in this clip. What evidence do we have of that? Nobody left any of these behind?
Here's the thing. The oldest Egyptian papyri. Let me put this up on there. It's the oldest Egyptian papyri. We've known about this for a while now. It talks about freaking ads. It talks about people quarrying stones and taking them to build the Great Pyramid when Khufu was the pharaoh. So, it's over 5,000 years ago, but it's not 36,000 years ago. Why are they talking about building the pyramid if this was built 36,000 years ago?
Right.
So we found papyri where it says, Merer mentions reporting, he says, filling his boat with stone and taking it up the Nile to Giza. In fact, Merer mentions reporting the noble Ankhaf, who is known to be the half-brother of Pharaoh Khufu. Okay, so he's talking about a time period that's between like 6,000 and 5,000 years ago when Khufu was pharaoh and they were building the Great Pyramids of Giza. It's not this idea, as Billy says, that this was built 36,000 years ago by an Egyptian deity named Thoth. He just ignores evidence that's inconvenient for him.
He ignores the evidence in the text.
Yeah. Wow. And so he also claimed that, of course, where is he getting this information from? The Emerald Tablets of Thoth. For those who don't know, Maurice Doreal made them up in like the 1920s and pretended he got them from some. It's basically just another version of Joseph Smith. He claimed he found these tablets, translated them, but he never provided the tablets, the Emerald Tablets, that is. And so now we got to pretend the translations are accurate. And that's what Billy does. It's uncanny. It'd be really funny if Maurice Doreal was like, I have a revelation from Thoth. I am to have multiple wives, because that would have fit the full narrative.
That would have been it. That would have been the nail in the emerald coffin for that.
Yeah. Speaking of, Ezra says Billy Carson is on the same level as Momo, that's Muhammad in the Quran, describing the sun setting in a muddy pool. I thought that was in a hadith. I'm not sure, but yeah, there's somewhere in the Islamic text it says like the sun that Alexander the Great saw the sun setting in a muddy pool, because that's where it goes.
Right.
Billy Carson versus Daniel Pikachu. Who wins? Oh, man. Well, that'd be fun. I got to think about that. Depends on the topic. I just feel like Billy would just throw out so many things. You'd be hard for Daniel to keep up with him. And then Daniel would just start resorting to just weird insults or trying to justify Islam in his weird way. I don't know, but that'd be fun to watch.
I'd pay for it.
Billy Carson converts to Islam. You see, Islam is the truth. JK, that would be the It would be. You're absolutely right. That would be the argument.
That would definitely be the night he'd be at Muhammad Hijab's podcast. He'd be making his rounds all over again.
Anytime any celebrity converts to Islam, it's proof Islam is true. because
Yes.
they don't have any really good arguments for Islam. That's the kind of crap they have to use. Can awful people be saved just because they believe? What are your thoughts, John?
I am an awful person.
Absolutely, you are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I would say the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is the gospel message. Of course you can.
Yep.
Like-
all of us are awful. Easy, Elohim, all of us.
Imagine adopting John's book into a webtoon or manga. That will get more people, young ones in particular, exposing the evils of law of attraction. When is the manga coming out, John?
I'm waiting for Paul to draw it for me. So,
All right, Paul,
yep.
get on that. Come on. We're waiting on you.
Yeah, it's you, buddy.
If we can't trust eyewitness testimony in court, if the testimony has been reported late, how can we trust the Gospel of Mark if the memory had enough time to be contaminated? Well, I have a video coming out tomorrow, which will actually address a lot of that and argue Mark is an eyewitness source
Stay tuned.
for the life of Jesus. So
Have
that
you
and
read Jesus and the Eyewitnesses?
like
by-
twice, yeah.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
book.
it-
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, it's good. I disagree with some of his conclusions on John and the evidence he used for John. When I do my video on John being an eyewitness account, I won't use a lot of his stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a good book. I think he's got to make some good points on Mark, but not so much on John.
I got halfway through it and then we moved.
Yeah, that'll happen. So to answer the question, so one thing we need to keep in mind is that in court of law, you have to be proven beyond reasonable doubt. So you have a much higher standard than just how historians would work or archaeologists or, any group. I mean, like we can know Epstein didn't kill himself, but we probably don't have the evidence to prove it in a court of law because there still is reasonable doubt. But we know Epstein didn't kill himself. I mean, like, that kind of stuff that people
Right.
say online. So that's something to keep in mind. So we're not in a court of law. Also, eyewitness testimony is still used, and we have good reason that trust Mark's account, which I'll go into tomorrow. Like he gets accurate details left and right. He provides things that backs up the church tradition that he's getting this from Peter. Like internal evidence supports the external church tradition, and then of course we have unanimous church tradition. It comes from Mark. So, we have church fathers all over the Greco-Roman world, all saying this is the Gospel of Mark, and they're divided by time, wide geographical regions, and they contradict each other on other details, but they still get the idea that Mark is the Gospel author. So.
I'm
All right.
currently doing a verse by verse Bible study through the Gospel of Mark.
On your channel or just personally?
So I do it on Zoom and then I just upload it to the channel. It's actually all I've really had time for since coming over here and having the baby. Well, I didn't have the baby, but since my
Well,
wife
you
had the
helped
baby.
too
Yeah, yeah.
for like
I was
5
there.
seconds.
Yeah, I was there on the wall of.
That's what I tell my wife when she's like taking care of the kids. I'm like, listen, I didn't do a lot of work. I'll make money. That way you can eat. I'll
Right.
do my part,
Okay.
I think he starts saying some pretty wild stuff now.
What'd you say?
I think he starts saying some pretty wild stuff now.
Have you been listening up to this point?
Actually, after I said that, I rethought about that statement. I retract it.
It's not just a power generator. It's also, in my opinion, it also could be a multifunctional stone computer.
Oh,
Okay.
obviously.
And this thing calculates the orbits of the planets in the inner solar system, which is crazy.
How's it do that?
Matter of fact, well, if I have some, can I open up this, just read some notes?
yeah.
I got
Yeah, Billy, how does it do that?
some
Definitely.
incredible notes that I did, some math that I
I'm
did.
some
amazed at how
incredible
much you
notes
don't
that I
need
did.
notes. There's a few people that come on this podcast that blow me away without
Yeah.
notes. Like Terrence is one of them.
Yeah, he's one of them. Yeah.
Rhonda Patrick, she's
Yeah.
another one of them.
I just want to
Andrew
get the
Huberman.
numbers exact,
Okay.
So one thing, the equatorial circumference of the Earth can be calculated by the Great Pyramid because the Great
Hold
Pyramid
on,
itself
hold
is
on.
1 by 43,000.
Uh-huh.
Circumference.
He's doing his best. I don't get mad at people for pronunciation things because I messed it up all the time. But yeah,
All right. Let's do it.
it
I
cut-
just
it-
I had to. Just
I
because
know,
he's an expert,
he's an expert. He's one of the world leading experts.
Right.
43,200 scaled down. So if you take the Great Pyramid and scale it up 43,200 times, it fits directly inside the sphere of the Earth and it touches the equator. Okay.
So meaning the dimensions of how the angles of it would fit inside of a sphere.
Inside of a sphere. It's a representation of the Earth in a pyramidal format. Okay. That's crazy. And if you multiply that by the base perimeter, you get 24,734.94 miles, which is roughly within 170 miles of the circumference of the planet Earth itself. Okay, which is wild. You can also calculate the speed of the Earth around the sun. So the Great Pyramid, basically you take a pyramid inch times 10 to the 8th power. It equals the speed of Earth around the sun. That's wild.
The problem with these kind of calculations is Flint Dibble made note of this, that you could take that and you could do that with a lot of different things. Like, what was the one he used for 420?
Yeah, 420 and 69 in it.
Yeah, he's a bunch of different funny ones.
420,
yeah,
weed day?
the weed day, yeah. He was explaining how you take these arbitrary precession of the equinox numbers and you could multiply them times like whatever you want. You could get a bunch of different results, like based on what you wanted the result to be, not based on the actual.
Some of them are hard to do.
Yeah, so Joe just debunked everything he said right there. So for once in what, like, got to give credit where credit due. Joe just threw that out. I was like, you're making that. This is all nonsense. That's not accurate. You can do this with just about anything.
But then Billy goes to try to one up it.
Yeah, here we go.
To do. Check this out. Forget about multiplying things. What about taking the fact that the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, is located at the center of land mass on Earth, not the center of the Earth, the center of land mass. Now, the only way you can put the pyramid at the center of landmass is you have to have a polar orbiting satellite. If we were to do it today, a polar orbiting satellite that's orbiting this.
Okay, is that accurate, John?
No, I mean, it's just not accurate at all. There's, in my research for this, I only found 3 sources for this whole pyramid being the center of landmass thing. None of them provide sufficient data for how they come to their conclusions, and they're in different locations. So one comes up with the Great Pyramid, and that guy did it using like a flat map in the 1800s, because, you know, we really had the ability to calculate the total landmass in the 1800s. But then the other one was in Turkey. So another person went and did this, and they found that the center of all landmass was in Turkey, and then another one pins it near Romania. So there's conflicting data when it comes to this. And the one that actually had the most data for it, and believe me, that's like not a lot, was the one from Romania. So
Romania.
Yeah. But even that is just like, it's speculation at this point. Nobody has truly done this and put it into like a peer review. Nobody's done anything like that.
Here we go.
This way, and as the Earth spins on its axis, you're taking swaths of data and you're calculating the landmass, and then you're going to say, okay, this is the center point for landmass, and you put it there.
So the center point for landmass being, you take the surface of the Earth, what percentage of it is covered with water, where the ground is,
right,
and then you find the center of where the most ground is, and that's where the pyramid is.
Exactly. The next thing is taking all the average heights of all the peaks on Earth, and then dividing that to get the average height and making that the height of the Great Pyramid. Now, you can't just randomly calculate those numbers. Okay.
That's the average height of all the mountains and the peaks on Earth?
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
False.
False.
Wrong. Just to like even make that claim just shows how much he does not. Either he doesn't understand it, or he just knows that you're not going to check it on the spot, because it's just, the pyramids are like 450 feet tall. The Great Pyramid. It's like 450-ish feet tall. Freaking Mount Everest is 29,000 feet. Mount Fuji, 12,000 plus. Denali in Alaska, 20,000. The average of all the great peaks is way higher than 450 feet. So that claim is just bananas. And then he says you take the average and then you divide it. Divide it by what?
By you use a B for Billy. You divide it by B, and then you add C for Carson, and that's what you get.
True. You know what? That must have been in the Emerald Tablet somewhere.
You didn't read the Emerald Tablet, so what am I gonna do? Yeah.
Dang.
Right, and that's an absolute fact. The Grand Gallery, the latitude.
That's an absolute fact. If you take the pyramid, you take the average height of all the peaks, you divide them by that's a fact. It's the 455 feet or something. Fact. because you divided it by and what do you get?
One of Billy's tactics is like on full display right now, and it's like shotgun blasting you with information so fast that you don't have the chance to be like, wait. What do you mean by this? What is your source for this? What are the exact numbers? You know, he just throws it at you, and you could see Joe there, like, you know, what's he going to respond to?
Yeah, you don't have time to like sit and go through all these, but it's a sleazy tactic to pretend you know what you're talking about. All right, let's finish this section out here.
Latitude of the Grand Gallery inside the Great Pyramid leading into the King's Chamber, the latitude are the exact digits of the speed of light in meters per second.
No, they're not.
You can't just randomly calculate that one.
Well, you can't just get those stones down. I mean, there's not
You see
one
how
thing
he-
about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get
So, is that accurate with the speed of light?
It's so the numbers are similar, but
Yeah.
it's definitely not exact. The numbers are similar. The decimal point is in different locations, and the speed of light in a vacuum is approximately 299,792,458 meters per second, and the approximate north latitude and east longitude. Well, the north latitude is 29.9792. So that's as far as it gets. So it's close.
Yeah,
it's some pretty cool
well,
stuff.
You got so many lines of like latitude and longitude running through it, and when you get like decimals deep, you're gonna get a whole bunch of different numbers. I mean, like,
Right.
one of them is bound to be something important. Could be the speed of light, could be another important number. You just find something that fits. And this is kind of what Joe was actually pointing out. You can find these arbitrary things all over the place.
You notice how Joe just like moved the subject and was like, yeah, well, it's crazy how they build these things.
Yeah.
get real crazy with numbers and mathematics, but there's not one thing about it that's not completely insane.
Yeah.
Like every single aspect of it is completely insane.
Yeah.
The fact that we still will try to pretend today that it's not impressive, or that it was impressive, but that they did it with sand and they did it with like,
Yeah.
how do you
Well-
know?
Well,
Like,
you would
don't-
need
Because, Joe, they used rocks and we have the quarries for where they got the rocks and we know how they did it. Like,
Yeah.
there are different theories about how they built the pyramids. None of them are aliens among Egyptologists. The debate is not how, like, we can't figure out how they built the pyramids. The debate is how, because there's different theories on how they could have done it. Because there's so many ways ancient humans could have done this.
Right. Acting like we aren't building skyscrapers that like basically touch outer space and survive earthquakes. You know, like this is what we're able to build now. An ancient civilization got help from aliens to put rocks together, you know?
It's like, is that what we would do if we discovered like a primitive civilization in like, you know, like at Alpha Centauri, for example? Are we going to go, let's go build some rocks for them?
I know, right?
No,
You know
we're
what you
gonna,
guys
like,
need? You guys need some pyramids. Okay, that's what you guys need.
maybe if like some A&E show, like, you know, it was like that Impractical Jokers, where it's sent there, we're gonna teach the primitive aliens here how to build pyramids, and then when they come later, they're gonna think that kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe that's what happened.
Yeah,
Aliens sent Impractical Jokers here, and that's what we ended up with. So
rocks. They're just laughing at us. They're watching us on real-time TV, just laughing at us. Like, look at them still trying to figure out these pyramids. They're just rocks, guys.
all right, let's get into
Stupid
some super
humans.
chats. The next section I want to get to is the Epic of Gilgamesh section. If we have time, we'll get to that. But I want to get through some of these super chats. Is any form of contraception between married couples sinful? Not outside of marriage, but within marriage? No, I don't think it's sinful per se. I don't think you should overuse it, though. I mean, marriage is for rearing children, producing children. But I mean, like, there are limits to that. Like, if you have a woman who's a high risk person, use contraception, this kind of stuff. It has its use. Just understand, like, don't abuse what we have, like the gifts that we have.
Right. And also, like, the birth control pill has some like serious side effects. So you want to just be careful of just
Yeah.
what you and your spouse are doing.
Is it heresy when Protestants deny the inspiration of the Apocrypha, the Deuterocanonical books, since it would deny the inspiration of Scripture? So there's a debate. Like Jerome actually thought that the Tanakh, the canon of the Jews, was inspired Scripture, and we're talking about someone like fifth or sixth century, I believe, very early on making this argument. And that's the canon that Martin Luther then uses. So, and there were others in between that sort of agree with Jerome. I can't remember off the top of my head. But so there was
Augustine like push back on that.
Yeah, Augustine said the Deuterocanonical, the Apocrypha, were inspired. So it's different. You have that debate going on. Right. So it just depends on what church fathers you're going to rely on. And, you know, we do think that the way the Tanakh is now, the Hebrew Bible, is probably what it was in Jesus' day, because based on what Josephus says about it. So it probably was the same books that is in the Hebrew Tanakh, not including Maccabees or Judith. But I mean, I don't think that's a hill worth dying on, is what I'm saying.
Right.
I would love to go back to the beginning of history to see Lil and them aliens cooking with the sauce. And it's a Yo Gotta music video.
Yo Gotti.
Listen, I don't know what all the young kids are listening to nowadays.
I didn't know Yo Gotti was still around.
IP, Aiden Mattis, and Wendigoon, and the Weird Bible podcast when, because we desperately need you on there. Whenever they invite me on.
I'm chop liver.
Hey, you're not chopped. Yo Gotti, book 5, chapter 3. I be in the kitchen where I'm trying to cook the sauce. That's law. Prophecy revealed. Do you just send these in to make me say weird stuff?
I think it's awesome. I love them. I wish people would send me super chats like that.
Fine, I'll say it. Dang it. Which nation, in theory, would God have probably given to Moses if he didn't say the right things after Israel made the golden calf? Well, God would have started over like Moses would have been the new Abraham, is what I think would be the case. And so you'd sort of he'd build a family, and then a nation would come like 400 years later or something.
Yeah. And
so it would have slowed down the timeline.
Probably have to ask Thoth.
There you go. Yeah, he would know. IP should do a live stream, play Faith, the Unholy Trinity for a 500 sub special. No, not doing that. But I will do a 500,000 live stream special when we get there. But not that. I made the baby myself. Base John.
Thug life. Is that the Yo Gotti? That's the Yo Gotti person.
Hold on. No, you got to say that in the camera. Look in the camera and say it.
Thug life.
No, the super chat.
I made the baby myself.
You heard it here, folks. This guy reminds me of a Dawa guy. Yeah, it does. He's going to convert to Islam to get more views. Heard it here first. That is what happens when you start losing.
That's not a conditional prophecy. That's fatal.
When you start, when you want a fan base that'll defend you, even if you're doing things like, abusing women. Andrew Tate. I mean, you'll get a fan base that'll just defend you to the day you die, and you can do whatever you want at that point. I mean, you don't have to become a devout Muslim or anything like that. So yeah, or Sneeko saying weird stuff, same stuff. Is the design argument for God considered special pleasing? I think you meant special pleading. I don't think you mean special pleasing. No, it depends on the type of design argument. I think some can be the ones that are not formulated well, but I would say it depends on the type of design argument you're using. When Billy said that's an absolute fact, I swallowed my Zin.
What's a Zin?
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head. Look it up. Google it. All numbers are divisible by 1. Each pyramid has only one top. Mic drop. Boom. You can't get around that.
Dang.
We have proven.
Cut the stream off. That's it.
All right. Let's get back to the video here. I think we're going to the Epic of Gilgamesh section. Let's play this one.
What happened that everyone stopped at the same time, unfinished in the quarry over here, unfinished in the quarry. All of a sudden, around the entire planet, everything is unfinished. Something happened globally that made people stop working on these structures and go to maybe Darren Kuyu underground base, or in the Americas that, they say that the ant people, the Hopi say the ant people took them under. If you couldn't go under and save yourself, you had a ship. We know that Ziusudra and
he's talking about flood legends, people. He's talking, there were no mega structures that people stopped working on before the flood came.
Epic of Gilgamesh was told how to build the ship, but it wasn't a boat like what we know was said in the Bible. It was actually a disc he was told to build. We found the tablet for that. So we have the tablet in the British Museum. It was an actual disc that looked like pie sections on the inside. And he was told to collect his local flora and fauna and his local livestock, not 2 of every kind in the world. He didn't get 2 ticks and 2 fleas and 2. It didn't happen. You know.
Okay. It doesn't say that.
Right.
Let me.
I'm no expert. I'm no expert in the Epic of Gilgamesh. But in my little bit of study, that's all it takes, a little bit. That's not
So
what
it says the walls were each 10 times 12 cubits in height. The sides of the top were equal length, 10 times its cubits each. I laid it out, its interior structure, and drew a picture of it, provided with 6 decks, thus dividing it into 7 levels. The inside of it was divided into 9 compartments. I drove plugs to keep it out, water in the middle part. It's a cube.
Yeah.
It's a giant cube. It's not a disc. This is the only vessel described because the Atrahasis and Eridugenesis are so fragmented. We don't know what the vessel was. No, it's a giant cube in the Epic of Gilgamesh here. It's not a disc thing. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think maybe Atrahasis may describe some sort of circular vessel made out of reeds, though. It's like a reed vessel. It's not what Billy is telling you it is. It's
not a space
The Epic
machine.
of Gilgamesh. Yeah, Epic of Gilgamesh is clearly a giant cube when you see it described.
It's in the text.
What did you hold up there?
I was holding up a box because that's what that's what it looked like. This is a disc in Billy's mind. This is a disc.
Yeah. The most well-described one is the Epic of Gilgamesh, apart from Genesis, and it's a giant cube. It's not that. Were the Crusades and Inquisitions generally sinful? I would say, yeah, there was a lot of sinful actions in them for sure. For one, Christendom was redefined by land, not by people, and then they started defending the land. They did a whole bunch of horrible things. Now, the Muslim jihads, the reverse, were also bad. It's like no one was really good in this whole thing. It was a total mess for sure. All right, let me go to the next section. Where did it go? Here we are. Let's see. 146 is what you have listed down here. So let me jump up to 146. I don't remember what was said here, so I may let you take the lead on this one.
And then the web comes out and it's just showing this stuff in much more clarity. And it's probably going to make discoveries that are even going to surpass, obviously, Hubble in terms of the quantity of galaxies. And it just keeps getting better and better. We're getting a bigger and better understanding of our place in the universe as a whole. And some people are scared of that. This is why they don't want it to get out. They don't want the information to be put forth that's going to change the paradigm. But the paradigm is not to be afraid. The paradigm shift is about to be embrace this new huge part of us that's connected directly to us. We're part of it, and it's part of us intrinsically, energetically. And I think people are just afraid of what they think is the unknown because it makes them feel small. When I hear all this stuff going on out there, it makes me feel bigger because I know that I am part of it.
Yeah, we are part of it.
Yeah.
But we like to think as individuals. That,
Right.
Oh my God, I'm not important. The universe is infinite.
Exactly.
The universe is not just infinite. It's so infinite that the infinite nature of the universe might be a part of an atom.
Right.
What? What happened?
I think that Billy is talking from a pantheistic worldview, and then I think that Joe Rogan is coming at this from a philosophical position of we're all one, and then he goes on to describe how infinite the universe is when the universe is finite.
Yeah.
So,
There's never been any theorem to show the universe could be infinite. It's most likely finite based on the most available data.
right.
Is there any more clips you wanted to get to before we wrap this up here? Because we're coming up to the 2-hour mark. There's a couple other ones we had listed. I don't know if we have time to get to all of them.
Let me see. All right. So go to 2 hours and 2:16:49. This is when he starts talking about flying saucers and being the Vimanas from the Mahabharata.
Yeah,
What
it's
is
crazy.
that? Like, what the fuck is that?
That's right. It's wild, man.
What
You
is
know,
that?
Like I said, I just see these things and I go back to the the Vermonters. They ran on a ferrofluid vortex engine.
That's how it was described?
Yeah, ferrofluid. So they had liquid mercury.
Ferrofluid?
Which is liquid metal. And so they put liquid metal inside
How do you spell that?
FERRO, ferro.
We used to have a ferrofluid lamp.
Yeah, there you go.
Really?
Remember? I bought
Yeah.
you that one thing. You like put a magnet on it and the.
Oh yeah, where is that? Is that in storage?
So they use a ferro. So you put,
Oh.
if you take a torus,
We
right?
need a new one, Jamie. Order us a new one.
If you take a torus and you put a ferrofluid like mercury inside of it, and you magnetize the torus in a way that creates this rotation, this RPM of the mercury moving around that field, and you get it up to about 60,000 RPMs, and then you actually pressurize the torus to about 250,000 atmospheres. And you electrify it, you get anti-gravity properties.
What?
Yeah.
Pause it for a second. Just pause
What?
it.
What? That's not. No. That. Go on. My brain's gonna explode. But go ahead.
Yeah. So Billy has one of his claims to fame is he is the CEO of a space agency, and they're working on like zero gravity jet propulsion stuff.
Oh, okay.
And what's interesting, I did a whole like expose on this because when I started reading his book, The Emerald Tablets of Thoth, to debunk some of the stuff in it, I saw that he was the CEO of a space agency, and I'm like, wow, that's some pretty legit stuff. Let me look into it, and it's just like it's like a shell company. It's all of his companies are at the same address, but he was like taking donations for this for a really long time, and then they lost their tax exempt status, and then like he switched to, you can donate through GoFundMe, and then that just disappeared. So he took in a whole lot of money for this. And what's interesting is after I made the video about it, he changed his website because I was just saying it looked like a website from like 2003. But there's just no updates on this whole jet propulsion system. So he's saying all of this stuff, but okay, create it then. You've taken all of this money, you have all of this knowledge, create what it is you are saying that you can create. But he doesn't, because this is part of the reason why I'm convinced he's a grifter and he's just making stuff up, is because he took that money and he bought Bentleys with it. You know, he didn't go build a zero gravity jet propulsion engine. No, he got himself a jet propulsion engine for,
But he needed to get to the facility, and how can he get to the facility? He doesn't have a Bentley. What other car is he supposed to
or
use?
Rolls Royce or something, a Ghost. I don't know. I just know that it's a very expensive car, and I'm cool with people. Go get an expensive car if you want to, buddy. But don't take people's money.
Yeah.
You have all these people investing in this propulsion system thing. You have it under a non-for-profit. You lose the non-for-profit tax exempt status, and you continue to take donations, and then you just completely stop talking about it. There's no updates on what it is you guys are doing over there. So.
Yeah, that is pretty evil of him to do something like that. And but yeah, what are you gonna expect? It's a Ponzi scheme at the end of the day. Just give all your money to him so he can be rich, and he'll just feed you lies in return.
He's about to expose how he has no idea how to read ancient texts right now.
Okay.
Oh,
So you can create a anti-gravity flying device utilizing that technique. And this is really, well known.
And how do they describe it in the text?
In the text, they talk about the fact that it uses mercury in a rotating disc.
Really?
And then they have some of the, the flight plans and some of the layout of actually the plans of the actual ship itself, one of the ships. And so from that, you can almost hypothesize or backward engineer what it might have been able to do. And in the text, it says they used to take a complement of men to many worlds. So this is incredible technology.
A complement of men to many worlds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think that the government has access to something similar to that?
Oh, I
You
believe so.
fast
1,000%. I believe they've been.
What's that?
Fast forward a little bit. They're just going to show like the metal.
Okay, where do you want me to go to?
Let me see what I got.
There's the metal.
What number are we on? I can't really see.
219.34.
Oh yeah, just hit play. Just let it go. That might be
Electrify.
regular.
Once you electrify it, you create this electromagnetic activity.
This is what it looks like in.
Yeah, that's just on 2 screws. I think it's just
They're
transferring.
just giving you,
itself,
just giving you how it transfers itself.
Wow. And so you could use that as something that could propel a device.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
And you don't get to reduce the weight of an object to 0, but you significantly reduce the weight of an object.
And the fact that they figured this out and that is it in the Mahabharata or the Bhagavad Gita?
And the Mahabharata.
Wow.
And it also, I think, was one account in the Vedas.
Like, what is the definition? Like, what's the explanation for how they figured that out? Like, help me out.
There's
help
no
me out.
explanation.
How the fuck?
They say they have flying cities. They said they say they have flying cities, and these cities would go to battle sometimes against each other in the sky.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you're talking about massive objects flying around.
Okay, that's not accurate.
Yeah, it's not in the. I'm gonna mess his name up. It's not in the Mahabharata. It's not in that. What he is talking about, like the only one of these, like quote unquote ancient Hindu texts, Sanskrit texts that has any layout for creating these machines was actually written in the 20th century by a man named G.R. Joycer. And he supposedly channeled this material from an ancient Hindu sage. And then it was translated to English in 1973. So him saying that this is in these ancient texts, it's not. Okay, like it's just not.
Yeah, I remember hearing that in an older documentary from like 10 years ago called Ancient Aliens Debunked by Chris White, and he put that out on YouTube. It was like 3 hours long. He said the same thing you're saying. It's like these are very modern texts people think are these ancient Hindu texts, and they're just not. All right. Let's get to some more super chats here, and then we were going to close this out. Let's see. We do this one. Oh, yeah. Joe just saying that part of the universe being an atom is literally the ending to Men in Black 1.
That is very true.
BRB got to go guzzle some mercury in order to fly. Yeah, that's all you got to do, apparently. Just that's what Billy Carson says. It's all over.
And you have to spin in circles, too. You got to spin in circles.
Make sure you spin in circles when you do it. And film yourself, because we want to see this. I was rewatching your debate with Ken Ovid and wondering what you meant by KJV being unreliable. Not that I think it is reliable. Yeah, KJV is based on very late manuscripts, and as well as like Texas Receptus as well. It's a lot of times they don't understand what they're doing, so they just translate literally, and they're not making really good sense of the text. So very late manuscripts. It's not the best translation. ESV, NASB, RSV, these are going to be more modern translations, but they're based on earlier manuscripts and better scholarship. So that's what I meant by that. Do you think Billy actually believes this, or is it just a con man? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a mix. I definitely think he's a grifter. Just my studying all his 501c3s that he opened, all of his entities that he's opened. Just this is somebody trying to avoid paying taxes, and just go to his website and look what he's selling. It's grift juice.
Yeah, and he says things that are just blatantly false. Like he'll say things like in Codex Sinaiticus, he once said in Codex Sinaiticus, Jesus isn't crucified.
Yeah, I saw that. He also, for somebody who is so good at translating ancient texts, the fact that he still believes Jesus is Hail Zeus, that that's not true, and you just continue to run with it because you don't care. You don't care that it's not true.
That's right, folks. He once said that Jesus translates to Hail Zeus. He said it without laughing, which is impressive. And it makes me wonder how much he knows if this is false, because I don't know if I could say that. I don't know if I could say Jesus is Hail Zeus without laughing.
I've seen other atheist TikTokers or pagan TikTokers try to say that, but it's something that is so easily debunked that just basic etymology, it's just this, which is something that at a bare minimum that somebody who, translates ancient texts, it's something that at a bare minimum you would know if you were an expert in these fields.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Billy Carson. As you can see, he continues to lie, and we will continue exposing him as he continues to lie until he deals with criticism. He doesn't deal with criticism, and that's why we keep doing this. So until he actually sits down and responds to some of this kind of stuff, he's gonna have to keep dealing with this because we're not gonna let him get away with these obvious lies when he's doing this to that many people.
Sorry, Billy.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we close out?
Nope. Had a great time.
Yeah. So anyway, John's channel is linked below in the video description on YouTube. Make sure you go subscribe. He's got a lot of good stuff coming out. Anything you're working on is coming out soon?
Yeah, I have a few. I'm gonna dig into this whole Jesus wasn't a seeing thing. There's a few there's a few like manifestation mommies and awakened bros who are talking about this. So I'm probably gonna do some stuff on that, and then also I'm gonna be tying in how hyper charismania is like just new age Christianity. So some of that type of stuff.
Manifestation mommies. I have never heard that before. Is that a thing or did you just make it up?
I made it up. It's manifestation mommies and awakened bros.
All right. Well, we need to make that viral. So make sure you just start tweeting about the manifestation mommies and awakened bros now, because that's a good description of them. I think it works. Yeah. Tomorrow on my channel at 12 p.m. So Pacific Standard Time. So 3 Eastern Standard Time. I will have a video on Mark. The title is Mark, an eyewitness account. And I'm going to be arguing that Mark got his information from Peter, who was an eyewitness. And that video is like 30 minutes long. A lot of data to cover. So then next month, I'll do one on Matthew, one on Luke, and then one on John. So a lot of stuff coming on my channel. Subscribe to John below. You can also check out his book, available on Amazon, Law of Attraction. Thanks for coming on, John. Anything else you want to say before we close out?
No, thanks for having me. And I'm definitely going to send the your video on Mark to my Bible study group.
Awesome. Yeah. Much appreciated. So yeah, well, the premiere will be on my channel tomorrow. Make sure you guys check it out. And we will see you next week. I'll have David Wood and Apostate Prophet most likely on my channel Tuesday. We got some more Daniel Hakikachu stuff to review. And you're not going to want to miss this. So come back on my channel Tuesday at 3 Pacific Standard Time, because he said some pretty crazy. He topped it. He went above and beyond this time. You're going to love it. So that stream will be announced Sunday, I hope. So I'll see you guys next time. And remember to subscribe to John below. Wait for